I wanted to start with your most recent role. Um, it's currently on right now, so if you're not watching it on Peacock, I highly recommend it. Long Bright River, and you play a pretty important role in the series. So let's go back to day one. How did you end up joining the cast?
No, it's just like most of the other acting jobs. You get an audition from your agent, and I was actually in Thailand at the time. I was at my brother's wedding, and naturally things were pretty slow. And then I get four auditions the weekend of my brother's wedding,
You're
and
kidding.
we were in Thailand. So because it was such a long trip, I asked my brother too. I was like, "Hey man, can I invite some of my friends? Like, I don't know the next time I'm gonna have a trip to Thailand, right?"
Yeah.
So like 10 of my buddies went to my brother's wedding, and the morning of, it was on a Sunday. Um, I was like, I need to tape. It's due Monday. I had two of my friends help me out before the wedding. So yeah, basically just did a self tape, and yeah, within a couple weeks, or within probably 2 weeks, heard back, and within a month I was in New York.
So for the
Yeah.
four, do you have to do a separate tape for each audition, or can you do like one for maybe two, or do you have to do an individual one for each audition you get?
For each show, it's an individual. So it's based off. So for Long Bright River, it was the scene of breaking down what happened. So my first scene in the show, and then goes into me and Mickey, played by Amanda, in the hallway. So yeah, so it was basically, it was two scenes, but it was like one long scene. But yeah, that was the scene.
So it's the morning of your brother's wedding, and you're running around trying to film audition tapes before you're stressing to get to his wedding. Oh my gosh.
Also writing a speech, because I was like, he's like, hey, can you give a speech? I was like, sure. And I did not game plan that well. So I was like
Oh my,
trying to write a speech, also do this tape, also trying to memorize four different scenes for four different shows. So,
oh
but it
my
worked out. It
God.
worked out. It's
By
funny.
the
People,
time you were done the speech, were you just like, I've earned this? Like
yes,
I've had probably a more stressful day than my brother and his significant other.
yeah. It's funny because your mental approach to it. Sometimes say you have an audition and you don't have much going on that week. You can focus a lot of your time and effort and energy into that one specific thing, right? Sometimes you have a lot going on, so you're like, you can't spend that amount of time. And sometimes those turn out the best.
Well, because you're not stressing about it either. You don't have enough time to stress about it.
You're like, I need to get this done. I need to kind of hit my beats, and then it is what it is, you
So you
know?
land the role. You come to New York, you start to shoot for it. Now, did you read the book to learn
So
more about your character, or did you kind of just let it go and be like, I'm just going to trust what the writers have?
So I was very curious because they first said 5 episodes. I ended up doing 6 episodes,
Mhm.
right? But I wasn't sure the arc or any of that. So I did read the book. There is some differences. I think my character's name in the book was Win, so it was a Vietnamese name, and he was mentioned a few times. So from there, I was like, okay, I just wasn't sure how big of a role it was, and then I was just reading like episode by episode. So as we were prepping, and yeah, I was also learning a lot about what was happening through that, because there are some differences between the book and the show. You know,
Did you take anything from the character as you were reading it in the book that you were like, oh, I want to include this in my performance? Or did you kind of just leave it to whatever came naturally?
I felt like I just left it to whatever came naturally, and then yeah, the writers did a fantastic job, like Nikki and Liz and Russell, and they all did. I thought a phenomenal job of storytelling on this. So yeah, it's when you have good writers and everyone kind of trusts what they're doing. It's much easier to kind of flow into things.
Well, and you work with such an amazing cast too. I mean, every episode there's a new person introduced, and obviously Amanda Seyfried leads the cast, and she does a phenomenal job. So for you, what was it like being on set? Did you take something away now that you've wrapped filming, you're all done? Did you take something away that you're going to continue to use potentially in your professional life or your personal life?
Uh, it is fun working with some of the best in the business. I mean, I feel like I grew up playing sports, so every time you had an opportunity to play with someone at a top level, I mean, you just watch how they work and you pick up little things, right? So I felt like just seeing how they approach um, each scene, how they gave multiple options. I think, especially early on, when I was acting, I would have this idea of what I wanted to do, right? Um, I realize now, the more I work, the more options that you give, the more, if it's different from take to take, that's a good thing for the editor. And so just seeing how they gave a range of different takes, and once you're done, you move on to the next thing. It's a lot of fun working with people who are great actors, you know?
Yeah, and you've been on a number of shows with great actors. And you tend to, at least recently, been a lot in a lot of procedural S type series, a lot of police work, a
Yeah.
lot of intense also work. So is there something that just draws you to that type of thing, or you just basically whatever comes my way, I'm gonna try for it?
I think it's a bit of both. Obviously I wait for opportunities that come from my team, but I feel like the more you do, I mean, I play a lot of cops, and then I play a lot of bad guys. Maybe it's the vibe. I don't know, the vibe I give off. But yeah, but once you start going down a lane and then you start getting footage and people start seeing you in different things, I feel like it's easier for them to envision you in a specific role. But I enjoy it. Like, to me, law enforcement, military, police, detective, bad guys. It's a lot of shows, have those types of characters. So I will keep riding that.
Do you think potentially part of your interest in that has to do with your dad being a part of the State Department and kind of being engrossed in a world where that kind of is a little bit of a constant? Obviously, it's a State Department, they can't tell you much, but you're kind of in that world.
I think absolutely. Yeah, and when we'd go to international schools, they'd have us in like a building with a lot of, people who work in the embassy, and you'd also have people like part of the DEA, and different departments. Which, I mean, it's all law enforcement um, type people, and that was kind of who I was surrounded by growing up. A lot of military families, So yeah, and then also I feel like in the sports world, people carry themselves a certain way too, where especially in baseball, you're taught to not get too high, not to get too low, kind of stay even killed. Whether or not things are good or bad, you kind of have this demeanor to yourself where you're carrying yourself like nothing can bug you.
Well, also, I find, I played soccer pretty much growing up, like at a high level. And you're taught, competitiveness is a good thing, and criticism is a good thing, because at least for me, I can only speak for myself. I mean, p people that I played alongside was when I was given feedback, I craved it. I wanted to know what I did wrong rather than what I did well, so I could find a way to get better. Um, and I don't know if that was the same for you, but if it was, I'd have to imagine that's kind of how you're also taking the acting as well. It's like, okay, I love what I did well, but tell me how I can be better.
Absolutely. I think for the competitive part, 100%. I think there's definitely skills that I've developed playing baseball that I've translated over to, being an actor. And it's mentally challenging to be in this career, right? There's like your job is to get the job. So you're constantly going out trying to find work, which mentally can take a toll. But I think playing sports, you have to overcome adversity. You have to be able to bounce back. So I feel like a lot of those things I've learned playing sports has really helped me in this world. Um, in terms of this is one of the differences in terms of like playing sports. When you get a note or you can instantly feel it, right? So if you're
Mhm.
kicking a ball, if your coach is telling you to angle your foot a certain way, you can see how the ball comes off your foot. Same with baseball. It's like hitting. If your coach is like, hey, keep your hands inside the ball or hit a ball, focus on a certain thing, you can instantly feel the result, whether or not you're doing it. With acting, a lot of it is opinion and how they take it in. So one person could take it in one way, another person could take it in another way. So getting notes, I think it just depends on who it's coming from. Because I've been to some classes. Everyone has an opinion, right?
Mhm.
Like if you have a little brother or you have a little cousin or you have somebody who's been in the business for 50 years, everyone has an opinion. So I think it's you just have to be cautious who you're listening to, because it could, if you listen to everybody, you're going to be a wreck.
Yeah.
I mean, also same with sports. You have your coaches that you trust, and if you trust them, you're gonna, when they give you a note, you're gonna apply it. If you listen to everybody in the stands, your head would be in a million different places. Yeah,
Something
that's
to
what it's
ignore the noise.
like watching Little League baseball, right? When everyone's yelling from the stands and the kids like looking to every base because everyone's yelling something.
Yeah. And they don't know what to do because they're like,
You
do I
know,
listen to mom and dad screaming from the stands? Do I listen to my former coach who's also in the stands? Or do I listen to my coach that's standing right here?
good luck, kid.
Good luck. So, how did you get from baseball to acting?
So I was basically, I played baseball. I went to IMG in Florida. It's like a sports boarding school. I went to a smaller D1 school in New York. Played some indie ball. Was playing some international. And then with sports, as you get older, the window gets smaller and smaller. And my goal was always to play Major League Baseball. And they want the youngest talent possible
Mhm.
that they can develop. So I was about 24. I had a few opportunities to keep playing indie ball, but I could just see myself heading down a path that of being a lifer, which I never really wanted to do, which is like you play and then you get into coaching or scouting, and your whole life is basically revolved around the game. And so I knew once I saw my window for playing at the top level kind of disappearing, it's like I wanted to make a switch. Uh, and at that point, I was like, what do I want to do? I don't know. Also, where do I want to go? I don't have like a home where my family is and all the neighbors and everyone that I grew up with was. So I think those were the two main things, because I was like, do I go to New York where I went to college? Do I go to Florida where I went to high school? Which at that point, I mean, it was a boarding school, so most people didn't stick around.
Mhm.
I was like, my brother lives in San Francisco at the time. I was like, do I go there? Do I go to Thailand? I was like, I've always wanted to kind of live in LA. Um, and so I had a conversation with my parents, and I'll say to their credit, they've always been all about chasing experiences and going out and trying new things. So when I told them, I was like, hey, I'm interested in entertainment, acting, getting into, the entertainment business. They're like, Joe, you're young, you have no student loans, you don't have any obligations. Like, this is the time to go and do it. We'll help you move out there. And so they were very supportive and kind of helped pushed me into a direction of something I was interested in. So, yeah, and I came out here and moved out here in 2017 and just tried to learn as much as I could. And every year I feel like gets a little bit better and better, knock on wood. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm open to learning and trying new things, and having that mindset, I feel like has really pushed me in a down a good road.
I mean, you've been in so much stuff since 2017, and big name stuff, Guardians of the Galaxy, The Gray Man, your new show, Chicago Fire, there's a whole list of things that just in such, I don't want to like it's not really a short span, but it feels like a short span because
Yeah.
you've done so much. So what are you doing now to kind of just not only obviously keep up with the acting stuff, but to also keep yourself grounded? Because as I said, you've done so much in a short period of time. So what are you doing to keep yourself grounded, keep yourself reminding that like it's not all about my professional life, that I still need to be a person outside of this as well?
I think that's a great point. It's a very important thing, because I saw it in the baseball world,
Yeah.
right? Where it's like, if you have a good day or a bad day, or a good game, that will dictate the rest of your day. That's not a healthy situation to be in.
Mhm.
I also see it here where it's like, oh, if somebody books a job, they're happy, and if they're not working, things are bad throughout their whole life, throughout all aspects of their life, and that's definitely not a healthy thing. And I
Mhm.
would say since COVID is probably when I started working consistently. Um, Also, I feel like having a full rounded life. Like, I play softball on a couple teams. So it's like I have my group of friends from there. I have my group of friends from the gym that I'll do stuff with. I hang out with a lot of stunt guys. I mean, that's kind of how I got into the business, was doing stunts. So it's like I have my stunt friends, I have my actor friends. I also have like my baseball, softball group. So I feel like that's kind of given me a more full-rounded life experience, and I think that also that really helps with the other part of it, because if you're more stress-free about needing a specific job, and I feel like you can perform better. But it is important to have different aspects of your life, like have those glasses full also. But
What?
it's a good point. That's the challenge, you
Yeah.
know, and it's not always easy to do that, because when you see everyone working and you're not working, it's mentally tough. Yeah,
Well, and the other thing you hear a lot from so many people when they move out to LA, the first thing, trying to book gigs, get all these auditions, how lonely it is, and how like they maybe lasted a couple of months or a year and they're like, I had to move back home or I moved, back to where my friends were because I just couldn't handle the loneliness. And for you, it sounds like, you know, and I have to imagine because you were traveling all the time at a young age, that you were constantly having to find a way to make new friends when you ended up in that location, find new experiences that you were forced into scenarios that not everybody is always forced into at such a young age. So now that you're a little bit older, when you're placed into those situations, it's like, all right, it's just like when I was a kid going to a new country. Here we go.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. You
So
know,
do you think because all of your traveling at a young age, it opened you up to so many different cultures, so many different people, that when you're approaching characters, it kind of helps you because you can get into a different mindset or provide different, as you said earlier, different takes of how the character would react based on, experience that you've had as a kid when you were traveling all over the world.
I think it definitely helps. I think the more life experience you have, the more you have to pull from, and the more different groups of people and different cultures that you understand. I think definitely as an actor, it can do nothing but help. And I'm very, very grateful for those opportunities. And again, I would have to credit my parents for, especially at a young age, kind of forming our me and my brother's mindset towards traveling and moving and new experiences. Because it's funny, is some people will, when I tell them the places that I've lived, half the people will say, "Wow, that must have been really difficult. That must have been really hard leaving friends." Half the people are like, "Wow, that's so cool. You just moved. It must have been cool to meet so many new people and travel to so many different places." And just from their answer, you could kind of understand how they would react to these moves. And I feel like your mindset is everything. And when we were kids, my parents would be like, "Hey, we're going to a new place. It's going to be exciting. You're going to go. There's going to be all this new food and these new friends." And baseball and family were like the consistent things everywhere we went. But a lot of our mindset was positive towards this because of my parents. I feel like what they were kind of teaching and saying around us.
So I want to go back because you mentioned the stunt work and how that's really how you started into the industry. Is that something that still intrigues you now that you've played more into actual acting roles? Is stunt still something you want to be incorporated into your resume, or have you kind of started to lean more away from that now that you're getting a little bit more in the speaking role portion of the industry?
I think they're two very different careers.
Hmm.
There's also a lot of overlap. So when I moved out here, my mindset was, what could I do to work? What I speak Thai, I played baseball, I'm athletic. I was like, how do I leverage these things? Because there's a lot of actors out here, right? I was like, what will separate myself from other people? Or what if it's me and somebody else? Like, what are the skill sets that could kind of give me an upper hand, right? Some people it's going to be, playing instruments or singing or their look or whatever it is. And so to me, I'm like, okay, I play baseball, which unfortunately isn't the most popular thing in Hollywood. I speak Thai, which has helped me get some opportunities, and then being athletic and being able to do stunts. So when I moved out here, I started training. That's why a lot of the people I kind of grew up with here in LA are stunt people. Um, and so I mean there's definitely a skill to a lot of the falls or a lot of the movements so you don't get hurt. So my first few co-stars were stunt acting roles where the stunt coordinator, they needed a stunt guy who could do a certain move but also act. And so that's kind of how I built up my first few credits. And then from my first few credits, that's how I got an agent. And then I started booking just like acting roles. And then that's how I expanded my team, you know? But yeah, I mean, I look at it as two different careers. I still do stunts. Like if you know, I have a lot of friends who are coordinators. I'll still absolutely go and work. And, you know, it still does lead to auditions, but I definitely know like acting is my passion, um, and especially as it's starting to pick up the last couple years, I definitely want to use my ability to do action as a benefit, you know, and that can help me give me an upper edge.
So with Long Bright River out now, what else that you can tease is in store for us from you this year?
Ooh. Chicago Fire, another episode of Chicago Fire comes out in a couple weeks. It's episode 20. So that's fun. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And I have an episode of The Rookie coming out.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So yeah, it's fun to have projects in the works that you're about to work on, and it's also fun to have projects that are going to come out. You know? Yeah. The whole Long Bright River experience was very fun.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, it's a great series. You know, I mean, if you're not watching it, you absolutely should. The twists, just everyone's performances are fantastic. But you know, it's also another stepping stone for you. You know, just
yeah,
another way to get more eyes on you, and to continue to watch you grow in
yeah.
a different genre. Well, it's not exactly a different genre, but a different take on the genre. So is there a character or a genre that you haven't played yet that you're kind of interested in getting into or trying?
Yeah, I'll say so. When I first moved to LA, I met a guy who is my creative partner, Axia, and we shoot a bunch of short films. Okay, so we're like almost at 25. We've had a few of these go viral. We've had a few going like to film festivals. So I feel like when there's things I want to do, I just write it and we go out and and you know we go out and we film it. So we did like a a parody superhero named Pfizer Man who could vaccinate people, and like a little needle comes out, and like we like go all in and like just try to make it look as good as it can for falling on a budget, right? So I
Mhm.
feel like playing like doing a superhero or doing little things like this, I can get that itch by just making shorts with my buddy, which I have a blast, you know. So when
Yeah.
it comes to career, I don't really have something where I'm like, ooh, this is the this is the one role that I would just dream about. I feel like I like working. I like playing different characters. I'm open to, you know, just playing as many different characters as I can because it's fun. It's fun to act and it's fun to create. So I wish I had a better answer for you on
No,
that.
because what I just got from obviously from other things you've said, but this is you don't like to be pigeonholed. You're like, if I want to do it, I'm gonna go do it. I'm gonna try it. And I love that because so many people are just sitting there waiting, you know, for the opportunity to come to them. And you're like, I'm gonna make the opportunity myself.
Yeah, yeah.
That's amazing.
I think you have to live life that way because there's one guarantee, and it's that you're gonna not be here one day. You
Yeah,
know. And so, yeah, I think, you know, there's nothing worse than sitting there and feeling like you want to do things and you can't do it. And
yeah.
it's a helpless feeling. So it's like, okay, if I have an opportunity to try and go out and shoot or experience something new, I am so down to do that.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I love that, you know, you've taken not only learning stuff from in front of the camera, but also behind the camera too.
Yeah.
And where did that passion come from? Just being on set and watching everything unfold, or was that something as you got into the industry, you're like, I want to be also behind the camera?
You know, I will say now looking back on it, like I used to make little movies with my brother when we were like 8 and 9 on a camcorder, which I need to find this footage. Um, but like even bless you,
Thank you.
um, even there was like a filmmaking class I took in international school when I went to school in Bangkok, and they would teach you how to use iMovie, and you'd go and film things. And now looking back, I was like, oh, I was always very curious about that, but I never put much thought into it because just living life as a kid and playing baseball and whatever, you know. But I will say, um, I think that's been the biggest help for me acting is filming stuff, also understanding the editing process. So when my buddy Axie is editing, I'm sitting there and I'm watching clips. So then it makes me realize more. It's like even when I tape or I work on set, you don't need a perfect take throughout. You need to just give moments,
Yeah.
right? You give moments. The editor's going to mix and match and cut it together. So I feel like watching the edit has really helped. And also directing these short films, you kind of understand what you're looking for. So when I break down a script, I try to see it from what is the camera seeing? And I feel like that helps me as an actor. I know everyone has a different approach to it, right? But I think it's 100% helped for acting. And it's definitely something I'm interested in, like down the road. Because I have this mindset where you don't necessarily, just because you're doing it now, doesn't mean you have to do it forever. Because your interests will shift, right? So, like, I love acting. Is this what I'm going to do for the next 50 years? I don't know. I don't like, you don't know who you meet or what direction your life goes in. So I'm just kind of, I'm open to learning and experiencing new things. And I love acting. So I'm going to keep pushing this as hard as I can. But life also throws you curveballs, you
Yes, it
know?
does. And it's whether or not you bat it back or you just get hit by it. Up
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, for
So
my final question today, because I know you've probably got tons of other stuff you want to do, is where can we find you on social media, your IMDb? Where can fans find you when they want to learn what is going on in your life, professionally and personally?
I appreciate that very much.
Mhm.
On Instagram, it's Joe Daru, Joedaru. And then online, we put all our YouTube short films on my buddy's YouTube page. It's Framed by Axia, FRAMEDBYAXIA. So we'll have about, there's almost 25 short films that we've co written and directed, and I've acted in most of them. And then, yeah, but mostly Instagram.
Perfect. Well,
Yeah,
thank you, Joe, so much for speaking with me. I really appreciate you getting up early this morning to talk. And I am super excited for you to watch you grow, continue to watch you grow and see what else you have in store for us.
awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.